From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Greek leaders have been holding talks with financial experts from the European Union, the International Monetary Fund, and the European Central Bank. All sides are working on ways to bring Greece's huge debt under control. That debt threatens to hurt Europe and the world economy. In 2011, the Greek government decided to close 50 state agencies to save money. The country's foreign creditors have demanded these types of cost-cutting measures. But this process has been a struggle. One example is Greece's attempt to close the Organization for Public Property Management, or ODDY. ODDY ran centers around the country that sold off different kinds of goods, from furniture to cars. At a center in Athens, cars of almost every model can be found. They may have been seized from drug dealers or taken from people who could not pay their bills. And there are lots of other goods: furniture, large appliances, buses, motorcycles, even gambling machines. ODDY used to sell them all. Now, that part of the agency has been closed, and the weather is ruining many of these goods. Officially, Greece closed ODDY, but employees and government officials say they really restructured it. They say ODDY has been renamed DDDY. It is no longer an organization, but a directorate, and it is now an office of the Greek Finance Ministry. Critics of the change say the new agency is no longer effective. Jobs have been cut sharply, and many costs have moved from pay to pensions. Critics of the cuts say they may not be saving Greece money after all. But the agency says that, in time, they will cut costs. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. Apple sold over 15 million iPads just in the final 3 months of 2011. Now, the popular tablet computer is in its 3rd generation. But as Apple prepared to launch a new iPad on March 7th, it faced legal challenges in China over rights to the name of the device. A court in Guangdong province heard a case brought by the Chinese company ProView Technology. ProView is based in Shenzhen in southern China and belongs to ProView International Holdings. The company says it holds the legal rights to the iPad name in China. Apple says it bought the iPad trademark in China and 9 other countries from a business owned by ProView in 2009. A lawyer for ProView said he believes Apple has not provided new evidence for the case in Guangdong. Apple was appealing a decision by a lower court which found that the company did not own the iPad name. Another lawyer for ProView said the legal issue over the trademark was clear. He said his company is fighting Apple over the idea of ownership. He also said ProView was willing to settle with Apple for the right amount of money. ProView says it holds the trademark for the name of a device called an Internet personal access device, or iPad. The device looks like a desktop computer. ProView says it sold about 20,000 of them over about 10 years. It says it received the trademark or legal rights to the name in 2001. ProView is in financial trouble. It has reported losses since 2008 and dismissed thousands of workers. Apple's legal team says that ProView is nearing failure. Apple says ProView has no product, no buyers, and no suppliers. Apple argues that a ruling against Apple would harm the interests of consumers in China. Apple holds 76% of the tablet computer market in that country with its iPad. A final decision by the High Court in Guangdong is expected to take weeks. The trademark issue has not hurt Apple's stock price, at least so far. Apple has become the most valuable publicly traded stock in the world, worth about $500 billion. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter. You can read, listen, and learn English with our programs and activities at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find English lessons at the VOA Learning English page on Facebook.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. The world is getting older. As more people retire each year, fewer working-age people will be there to replace them. This has effects not only in the workplace, but in the world of finance. The bond rating agency Moody's says the aging population will lead to a drop in household savings. This could mean that total investments will fall and economic growth could slow. Some reports have described Japan, Italy, and Germany as the world's super-aged nations. That is the name for countries in which at least 20% of the population is at least 65 years old. Elena Dugar is head of Moody's Sovereign Risk Division. She says changes in many populations are taking place quickly. In 5 years, 6 more countries will join the list of super-aged nations, and 34 nations will be super-aged by the year 2030. Elena Dugar says this will have a big influence on labor and savings. Kishore Kulkarni is with the Metropolitan State University of Denver. He says immigration is one way to reduce the effects of an aging population. Older adults spend money differently than younger ones, and experts say the difference affects the economies of countries. But Kishore Kulkarni believes that specialized career training and productivity gains from technology could make up for the drop in the number of workers. He also says that an aging population will be less of a problem in countries where older people are highly valued. And most experts agree that young workers will have to work longer and retire later than today's older workers. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report in Special English. Congressional leaders and the Obama administration began budget negotiations soon after the presidential election. They are trying to avoid what is being called the fiscal cliff, which is a combination of tax increases and budget cuts that could harm the economy. However, a group of wealthy Americans has formed to try to influence those talks. More than 20 members traveled to Washington recently to call on lawmakers to raise taxes on the richest Americans. The group calls itself Patriotic Millionaires. Members have incomes of at least $1 million a year. Their message is simple: tax us more, we can take it. They are worried about the growing gap between rich and middle-class Americans. The group supports President Obama's plan to raise taxes on high-income earners as part of a budget agreement to avoid the fiscal cliff. If an agreement is not reached by the end of this year, taxes will go up for most Americans, and federal spending will go down sharply. The Patriotic Millionaires believe their taxes need to be raised. They also do not agree with the idea that increasing taxes on those who create jobs means fewer jobs will be created. TJ Zlotnitsky is the head of iControl Systems, a data management company. He is also a member of the group. He says his personal tax rate is not an issue when he decides on hiring workers. The group opposes raising taxes on the middle class, but not high earners, noting it would be bad for the economy. Patriotic Millionaires has more than 200 members across the country. They work in finance, entertainment, technology, and other areas. For VOA Learning English, I'm Alex Villarreal.
This is the VOA Special English Economics Report. The British bank Standard Chartered agreed to pay $340 million to a United States financial regulator in August. The agreement was to settle charges that the bank illegally hid financial business with Iranian interests. The wording of the agreement notes that the financial business in question amounted to at least $250 billion. Standard Chartered said it strongly rejects the charges. The bank said it will fight efforts to withdraw its license to do business in New York, an important financial center. Standard Chartered is Britain's fifth largest bank. New York State's top bank regulator accused the bank of being a rogue institution from 2001 to 2010. The regulator said the bank made hundreds of millions of dollars in fees from about 60,000 financial exchanges with Iranian financial institutions. The reported exchanges were made through the bank's New York offices. One official said the dealings exposed the United States banking system to terrorists, illegal drug traffickers, and rogue states. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation is carrying out a criminal investigation. Other United States regulators also have opened investigations and are not part of the settlement. United States law has tightly controlled financial dealings with Iran since 1979. That year, 52 Americans were taken hostage in Tehran for 444 days. But Western concerns about Iran's possible nuclear program are central to the case. Bank expert Bert Ely told VOA that the investigation is part of an effort by several Western countries to limit Iran's nuclear program. They accuse Iran of trying to develop a nuclear weapon. He said enforcement of the Bank Secrecy Act and other laws is part of an effort by financial officials to cut off money flows to Iran. This is to make it as difficult as possible for Iran to sell its oil around the world and to buy equipment and parts for nuclear enrichment activities. Standard Chartered is not the only British bank that has faced fines recently. Barclays agreed to pay fines of about $450 million to American and British officials in July. Barclays is one of 18 banks that set an important measure of borrowing costs for banks, the London Interbank Offering Rate, or LIBOR. Officials said Barclays lied to them about its interest costs. This made the bank appear stronger than it was. But LIBOR is used to set many interest rates paid by millions of people around the world. For VOA Special English, I'm Mario Ritter.